heard Ilse Weber's song Wiegala for the first time on Anne-Sophie von Otter's Theresienstadt CD. I was enamored by the haunting melodies and poetry that she wrote, and I quickly shared it with Nate since we were still working together at McGill, and said, this feels quite important. I think we should dig a little bit deeper, and Nate agreed. And thus cue the COVID-19 pandemic. It seemed like everything shut down and there was no opportunity for art or creation, but Nate and I had this incredible artistic lifeline to explore during this time of silence. Music from the Holocaust for us now, I believe, has become a huge part of our artistic identities and also how we engage with classical music and the world abroad as things continue to change. And it's a real honor to be here today to share this music with you.
So Ilse Weber was an extremely multi-talented, brilliant woman. She was a Czech Jew, a poet, songwriter, children's author, radio producer, and self-taught musician who played many different instruments. She and her husband became victims of World War II and were ultimately sent to this camp, Theresienstadt, and then to Auschwitz. And she and her son, Tommy, were killed, and her husband survived, and they sent their eldest son, Hanush, away on a Kindertransport to London. And he's still alive today. He's very old. In Theresienstadt, she worked as a night nurse in the children's ward, where they had no medicine to treat the ill, so she was there for moral support. She wrote songs and poems to comfort the children she was caring for, and played for them on a smuggled guitar. Before he left Theresienstadt, her husband, Willie, collected all of these poems and everything she wrote down and buried them in a garden, and then returned after the war and dug them up, which is why we have them now. Ilse voluntarily went with the children she was caring for to Auschwitz so they wouldn't be alone. And she and her son Tommy were killed upon arrival. So we, as I said, we have these surviving melodies that she wrote and poems that exist basically just as scraps of paper with a single melody line on them. So part of our work has been to make new arrangements for voice and piano duo. And there are also some existing arrangements that have been published. Interestingly, most of the time this music isn't done by Jewish performers, so that's one of the reasons we felt like it was important for us to do it. So today you'll hear us weave together Ilse's songs, and we'll intersperse it with readings of her letters and poetry from this book. The cover's not on, but this book is called Dancing on a Powder Keg. It's her collected letters and poetry, and I just highly, highly, highly recommend it. It's really one of the most remarkable Holocaust documents. Like, almost think like if Anne Frank had grown up, like, this is who she might be. It's just someone who is that level of like courageous and eloquent and big personality. It's a wonderful book to have. Please don't feel the need to applaud after each thing. We'll get through the whole set and then have our moment of glory at the end. So thank you, and please enjoy.
Ich schreibe von dir, man treibt mich von Ein Druck deiner Hand hat die Sorgen gewandt. Wir trugen gemeinsam das Leid. Wir trugen gemeinsam das Leid. Ade, Kamerad, dich ist es schad, der Abschied wird mir schwer. Verlier nicht den Mut, ich war dir so gut, jetzt sehen wir uns nimmer mehr. Jetzt sehen wir uns nimmer mehr.
And if anyone didn't know, all of the words to the songs are printed in the programs that are under seats. This is from a letter from May 6th, 1939. You will probably be happy to know, how do we live here now? Well, at least we're not pestered by boredom. It's like dancing on a powder keg. The air is impregnated with insane rumors, which we no longer believe. Anyway, we allow for all possibilities since the wildest rumors have turned out to be true. Oscar surely told you that we have always lived in peace and warm friendship with all the people, regardless of nationality. I was deeply rooted here, so much that Gray was surprised about it. I loved my hometown and found inspiration where no one else saw it. Witkiewicz is, for all that I know it, an interesting but sooty and sober town. Nevertheless, I discovered beauty in its chimneys and wrote poems about the fiery glow that painted the evening sky red. I would weep, full with emotion, over each insignificant little willow that sprouted from heaps of rubble. The dirty waters of the Ostravizia seemed more beautiful to me than the Adriatic. And what the Beskids have meant for me, I can express only in verses, and even then, in my opinion, very inadequately. I've never wanted to go away. As regards the people, I loved them just as well and had an excuse for their conspicuous, unpleasant features. And now, I want to tell you what I experienced, for instance, today, a weekly market day on my way to the market. I live next to the market, so my walk there isn't that long. First, I encounter Frau Roh. Oscar can provide you with the necessary commentary. She was an intimate friend of my sister, and we liked each other very much. At first she greets, "Good morning." Immediately after, she sneers at me and says, "Heil Hitler." A few steps further, I meet Frau Hochka. Oscar doesn't know her. This is a working-class woman who came to me when she was in dire need. I employed her since she was pregnant, and I helped her whenever I could. She told me 3 times a day how kind Jews have been to her. Now she's pushing the baby stroller with her 1-year-old boy, who looks very nice in his light blue suit and matching cap. Both belonged to Tommy. Suddenly, she stares in the air. Next, I encounter Frau Rosenau. Oscar can tell you a great deal about that one. If I hadn't taken care of her little boy, he would have perhaps run wild. She presented him to me last year with the following words: "Look, little Otto, this is Aunt Ilse who raised you." In addition, Mama taught her to cook and keep house, for she was terribly inexperienced and helpless. Now, meeting me and Mama, who's with me, she looks at us with no expression on her face and stares at the floor. Only very few greet us warmly, but to be perfectly honest, there are still some who do. I don't care much anymore. Sometimes it still hurts a little, but then comes a beneficent wave of contempt that quickly washes all the pain away. When I have some peace and time to reflect, I try to put myself in position of those friends, convincing myself that they must be ashamed inwardly. Because even if I can imagine that I could be filled with enthusiasm for an idea, for a person who has the halo of glory, surrounded by greatness and God knows what heavenly miracles, even so, I would never, never be carried away emotionally so as to betray my friends or condemn an entire nation and find people despicable just because my idol demands that from me. During the nasty September days when all people who had the means fled town in a wild panic, only we and a German tenant stayed behind us in our 3-storied house. We bonded with such harmony that can only develop in times of commonly felt danger. When she moved out, she thanked me sincerely and emphasized that she would never forget how I treated her. At the time, the Germans were in the exact situation that we Jews are in now. Still, I would prefer not to meet her now. You will be surprised that I unburden myself to you like this, but apparently, everything I laugh about contemptuously on the surface, I nevertheless subconsciously take seriously, and I must provide myself some relief. We're switching the order of the next 2 songs in the program.
Die Nacht schleicht durchs Ghetto, schwarz und Sturm, schlaf ein, vergiss von alles ringsum, steck fest deine Köpfchen in meinen Arm, ein Mutter schläft sich's weich und warm. Schlafende Nacht kann vieles geschehen, jede Nacht kann ohne Kummer vergehen. Mein Kind, du wirst sehen, einst wenn du erwacht, ist Frieden gekommen über Nacht. Dobry nam pożydy, wszechmieli pożydy, abychom se rady mieli, wszechozlego zapomnieli. Dobry nam pożydy, wszechmieli pożydy.
From June 24th, 1936. I have to inform you over again that Hanush was insanely pleased with your letter, and to this very day knows its content by heart. He is fighting over the pictures with Tommy, who is a little good for nothing and takes away everything from his brother. Speaking of Hanush, you have now, after all, pedagogical experience. Help me with this. He is very nice, a very good boy, but asks an uncomfortable question. I want to quote you a conversation word for word. Hanush, Mutti, Are we German or Czech? This is pretty much the worst question he can ask me. I am raised as a German, but since the overthrow in Germany, I am no longer a German. Diplomatically, we are Jews. Hanush, yes, but what kind of Jews, Czech or German? Since I speak insufficient Czech and second, do not want to lie to myself, we are Czechoslovakian Jews. He is dissatisfied with this answer, but for the time being cannot argue. Now help me, what should I tell him? He is going to Czech school and speaks flawless Czech, better than Willie or I. I love the Czechs, but still cannot say I am Czech when I attended a German school and write in German. But this child reflects about it and disagrees with the answer that he is Jewish. I cannot explain to him the minorities problem. He is still too young for that. I can see it, though, that I will have to do it. From a letter from May 23rd, 1938. We Jews are naturally hit the hardest again. Our children are all Czech, but we adults have always spoken German between ourselves, which is our mother tongue after all. Now the Czechs declare, how can you use this language when the Germans inflict on you so much injustice? But on the other hand, when we make the effort to speak Czech, they scornfully say, look at the Jews, how readily they adapt. From March 24th, 1939. I simply can't grasp that I have to leave everything I love. I have never done anything wrong, therefore I don't need to fear the Gestapo. On the contrary, behind all the swastikas that lavishly adorn many windows now, there are likely very few people who have worked as enthusiastically for German culture as I have, a Jew who loves and respects the Czechs.
My dear son, 3 years ago today, you went off into the world, alone. I can still see you at the train station in Prague, how you cried in the compartment, how you turned your brown curls to me and how you begged me, let me stay with you. To you, it seemed too harsh that we should let you go. You were only 9 years old, tender and small. When we returned home without you, there I thought my heart would shatter. But still, I am happy you are not here. The strange woman who took you in, she will surely go to heaven. I bless her with every breath. No matter how much you love her, it will never be enough. It got so dim around us here. They took everything from us. Our house, our homeland, not one thing was left. They even took your little train set and your brother's little rocking horse. They even took our names. We walked through the street like cattle with numbers around our necks. And all this would have still been fine if I could have at least stayed in the house with your father. Not even the little one is allowed to stay by me. In my life, I have never felt so alone.
Und der Regen rinnt, und der Regen rinnt. Ich denk im Dunkeln an dich, mein Kind. Hoch sind die Berge und tief ist das Meer. Mein Herz ist müde und Sehnsucht schwer. Und der Regen rinnt, warum bist du so fern, mein Und der Regen rinnt, Gott selbst hat uns getrennt, mein Kind. Du sollst nicht Leib und Elend sehen, sollst nicht auf steinigen Gassen gehen. Und der Regen rinnt, musst du mich nicht
You are still young. You are still young, and thus you hardly understand. So many are trapped in one room. Body lies on body. You feel the suffering of others, and you feel your own torment full of pain. My boy, are you healthy and well behaved? Now no one sings to you anymore as you sleep. Think just that when we see each other again, you will barely be able to understand one another. You will have long ago forgotten your Sweden, and You will have long ago forgotten your German in Sweden, and I can't speak Swedish at all. Won't that be funny? That in just such a short time, I'll suddenly have a big boy. Do you still play with toy soldiers? I live in a real barrack with dark walls and gloomy rooms. One wouldn't know of sun or plants or trees. Here I'm a nurse for the children, and it's nice to help and soothe. Often in the night, I wake up next to them. The small lamp barely lights the room, and I sit and I tend to their peace. And in each child is a part of you. And then my thoughts fly to you, and still I am happy you are not here. I would gladly suffer 1,000 torments if I could pay with them for just one child's happiness. Now, it is late and I must get some rest. If only I could just see you for one blink. Dear son, no matter how strong my need, I can only write letters you'll never read.
I wander through Theresienstadt. A policeman's glance makes my flesh crawl. The loot I found is concealed, held tight, wrapped like an infant in a shawl. My heart beats fast, my cheeks are hot. I dread his probing eyes. If he discovers what I've got, he'll take the loot I prize. In this place we are all condemned, a shamed, despairing crowd. All instruments are contraband, no music is allowed. Want and cruelty we endure, every torment they devise. Let them try our spirits more, from the dust we shall rise. We must be strong within ourselves, lest in despair and dread we drown. Must sing until the song dissolves these walls and our joy tears them down. Music lights up a poet's words, from our plight brings release. Even the sparest song of birds bear moments of blessed peace. And when we again lose our nerve, drowning in despair, the boundless beauty of the world wafts resuscitating air. Music is a beatitude. It is there salvation lies. Fearlessly, I tote my lute beneath the policeman's eyes.
Ach, Haus, du Wunder,